Hello. Hope you guys are having a fabulous Friday. It's Friday. I cannot believe it. I'm super excited, super pumped. If this is your first time hopping on kellyfrickconnect, I am Kelly Frick, and I am here always to remind us that you are enough and that you're beautifully, wonderfully made, right? I'm super excited to be able to share with you guys today about dysmorphia. So I'm going to let you guys get kind of settled in. Some of you are probably trying to get yourselves situated with lunch and tea or coffee, water with oils, who knows what, right? As always, as you're watching this, if you're watching this live, please put lots of hearts and thumbs up so I see you, I know you're there, so that I can be as interactive as possible. If you're watching the replay, still share comments below, any questions that you might have. I really love being able to connect with you guys online as well as offline, to be able to answer questions, to help support, to lift you up, and to be able to, work through this amazing hope and healing journey of our health. So today is going to be about dysmorphia, and it's kind of it's becoming more well known and understood, but I know years ago, it was a word that nobody really even fully understood. I remember having friends and people asking me, dysmorphia what? So we're going to dive in. So again, as you have questions, anything that you might have, please feel free to comment below, ask away. I will be sharing some really great books and resources at the end, some things that have helped me throughout the years, as well as just as I learn continually with this journey of continually bringing in great resources that are supportive not only for me, but for my clients and for workshops and stuff that I provide. So dysmorphia, right? Let's talk about insecurities. We've all got them, right? Perhaps when looking in the mirror, we wish our teeth were a little bit whiter, or our skin was a little bit smoother. However, when we step away from the glass, a lot of people, these thoughts typically fade into the background and they continue on with their day. But what if these minor insecurities didn't fade? They were rather amplified and compromising your ability to function. So over more than 5 million Americans on a daily basis, this is a reality to them, and this is called body dysmorphic disorder, or dysmorphia, or BDD, okay? So that's 1 in 50 men and women, all right? Women and men. This is not a mental disorder that affects just men, affects just women. It also is increasing in men as well. And so the question might be, why am I so passionate about helping others understand dysmorphia? Because this is a mental disconnect that I have challenges with. And so my hope is by the end of this time that we're here together with this interactive, live on the cloud, isn't this super wonderful, right? That I will be able to help you have a better understanding about dysmorphia and what it really looks like, and a way for you to be able to empower yourself if you feel that this is something that you might be vulnerable to, or others that you suspect might be ailed with this. All right, so, and helping you know that there are ways to be able to get past the lies that our mind can do to us. I want you to be able to dig deep and see what God sees, not the distortion and the lie that has been planted in your mind from the enemy, okay? So we're gonna real quick go a little bit sciencey and geeky for a moment. So according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, BDD, or body dysmorphic disorder, involves repetitive behaviors and debilitating fixations on a perceived or imagined flaw in one's appearance, including their face, skin, hair, genitalia, or body type. An individual struggling with the disorder may spend absurd amounts of time examining their body for defects, comparing themselves to others, or engaging in excessive exercise, primping. Just these daily tasks become obsessive, and their goals and social interactions can be entirely interrupted if not brought to a screeching halt. So in some cases, the extraordinary distress of BDD has led to suicide. Dysmorphia shouldn't be confused, though, with dysphoria, which is typically referred to gender dysphoria, where a person who's assigned a gender at birth does not match the gender in which they identify, which that's a totally other topic, right? So we're talking about BDD, body dysmorphic disorder, right, or dysmorphia. So typically what's going on is dysmorphia develops early during adolescence. It's often misdiagnosed as OCD, social anxiety, clinical depression, eating disorders, although it actually emerges as an accumulation of several of these issues. So a person can have dysmorphia and can actually branch into these other disorders, all right? So dysmorphia can stem from a number of biological and environmental factors, including genetic predisposition to compulsive disorders, to cognitive malfunction, peer groups, childhood trauma. A family member that we might look up to may have low self-esteem or a body dysmorphia disorder themselves. So this is where, like, for example, for me, all right, so I have a biological predisposition to dysmorphia. I had one of my primary caregivers, my mother, as well as multiple, family members and all that stuff, who had low self-esteem themselves, probably dysmorphia. So this stuff was passed on to me genetically, as well as dealing with sexual trauma of my childhood, right? That created a disconnect as well. And then as I entered into the high school years or into early adolescence, all that stuff, of becoming more and more self-conscious of my body and my surroundings, all right, and to where I had this terrible distortion of what I looked like in the mirror. So while there is an overfocus in the media towards the way we look, this disorder actually occurs around the world, regardless of access to media or socioeconomic status. So that's kind of interesting, right? We tend to think that the social media and the media, because we're having more and more access to media, that it is creating a rise, or that it is the cause of dysmorphia, and it's not. It really and truly is. There are several different factors. Again, if there was trauma in childhood, if there is a predisposition, if there's already a chemical disconnect in the brain, as well as poor self-esteem from family members that you're surrounded by as you are being raised and reared. So what does it really look like to live with BDD? So let's look through the eyes of a person who is experiencing this, all right? So from a young age, a person will find themselves struggling with body image, spending hours in front of the mirror cataloging each of their flaws and screaming hateful words at themselves. They'll often engage in cycles of restrictive food, of monitoring their weight, of binge eating, of either looking too much in the mirror or even avoiding mirrors, all right? Some days they can't even lift their eyes to look into the mirror because of all of the imperfections. On those days, they generally avoid going out in public or wearing clothes that might feel snug or revealing. They can't even look at themselves, let alone expect anyone else to want to see them. And that's part of the difference of low self-esteem and dysmorphia, is that a person with low self-esteem, or just not feeling really great in their clothing, they're able to pull their shoulders back and say, oh well, I'm gonna still go out there, and they own it. They go and do it. Even if they've got a little bit of chatter in the back of their brain. Dysmorphia, a person can look in the mirror literally and say, oh my goodness, I look hideous, I look horrific, how could anybody want to even be around me today? And they will make absolute total every excuse of why not to leave the house, why not to even go to the grocery store, because they're convinced that their body, their presence will disrupt everybody around them, and everybody will be looking at them just horrified. On other days, you'll starve yourself before you then over-exercise with the goal of getting in that perfect shape and achieving a sense of worthiness. Now, isn't that horrible that we don't, we're just continually trying to battle and beat ourselves up, right? The self-hatred that comes with the bad days of dysmorphia places a physical and an emotional barrier between you and your loved ones. And even on a good day, it can still linger. So there are many different possible treatments and such that have been studied and researched, even though the media isn't the cause itself. The question is, could it be the solution? Partially because there are some really great, powerful body positive models out there now who are continually trying to remind us that we are more than our body, right? That we are beautifully and wonderfully made. We need to remember that self-imagery feedback between the eye and the brain, though, of individuals with dysmorphia is incredibly distorted. And while we might go to some quick fixes, a lot of dysmorphic individuals will go to surgery, for example, or just extreme things to fix their perceived flaw, but they actually end up not being satisfied at all. And there are so many people, it's just unfortunate, that end up having one cosmetic surgery after another to fix this flaw, or they take one diet aid after another. They starve themselves. They end up entering into eating disorders because they're so convinced they need to be able to be perfect. And none of us are perfect. And we are all already beautifully and wonderfully made. God sees us, He knows us, and He already sees the beauty that He created in us. We just need to see what He sees. So many will suggest to treat dysmorphia with prescription medications, but I'm going to share some natural choices that I think are really super supportive. But again, I am not a doctor. Okay, so I'm going to share with you things that have really been helpful for me, that have been super helpful with my clients and customers, with friends, with just many people that I've worked with, as well as that I've heard about and stuff. So again, always, take this to your doctor if you really believe that there's a possibility. That's part of the reason why it's so underdiagnosed, especially years and years ago, and it's starting to become more available, is that we need to be willing to be vulnerable and honest with our doctors of where we're feeling. And if we don't think our doctor is listening to us, find a different doctor, because they're your partner in your health, not the authority. They're your partner because it's your body. I take a drink. So the things that can be really super supportive for us naturally are things like EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. What that does is it helps us release emotions. So the simple formula, I've shared this with you guys before, is you have the formula where you do your statement on the karate chop spot, and you do that 3 times. Then you go throughout the different pulse points, all right? And you do a round of that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. But you can also do, so many people think they have to do the entire round, the entire formula of tapping. If you're in public, or if you're needing just a super quick fix to just overcome something, it's okay to do a quick, wherever it is that you find yourself feeling that tension or that negative emotion or that whatever, then you just start tapping. I am beautifully, wonderfully made. I am beautifully, wonderfully made. I refuse to listen to the lies that my head is trying to chitter chatter to me. Lord, I am beautifully, wonderfully made. I know this. Let me see myself as you see me. Help me see myself as you see me. And bring out whatever emotions that you are addressing at that time as well. So EFT is one way, right? They can help us with the perception of who we are and how we are. In addition to EFT, there's also oils. They can really be helpful and supportive, because so many different oils have beautiful different emotional components that are connected to us physically as well. Personal journaling. Journaling is so super helpful because it allows us to get that junk out and to write it down. Spending time with loved ones, going for walks, being outdoors in nature. These are mindful lifestyle changes that can really increase your capacity to love yourself and to help the bad days become less common. While there's currently no cure for this disorder, I want to help others find that beautiful connection with their body and to know that you are beautifully, wonderfully made, all right? You are just beautifully, wonderfully made. If you agree with me and you're watching live, throw lots of hearts and thumbs up because you're beautifully, wonderfully made. I want to make sure that anyone struggling with body dysmorphia knows that they're not alone, that seeking help is the strongest and most brave thing that you can ever do. This is a journey, all right? There is a light at the end of this journey. So what do I do personally to truly support myself with my journey of dysmorphia? How do I have more positive days with less mental chatter? I take it to prayer every single morning. I bring in what oils I know are going to empower me during that day. I do tapping multiple times throughout the day. I do my journaling and I avoid triggers. Each of us have triggers, regardless of whether we have dysmorphia, whether we have just low self-esteem, whether we have lower body self-image issues, whatever we might be challenged with, not struggle, because struggle is a choice. Whatever we might be challenged with physically or mentally, we can empower ourselves with prayer, oils, EFT, journaling, and avoiding the triggers that cause us to have that mental chatter, right? So some of the triggers that I avoid are a scale, right? Some people with dysmorphia are fine with a scale. I don't get on a scale. I have not got on a scale for over 2 years because it triggers me. I can be having an absolutely totally beautiful, wonderful day and feeling beautiful and wonderful in my skin. But I step on that scale expecting a particular number, and if that number does not match that number, I spiral. I absolutely and totally spiral, and I start beating myself up, and I think, oh my goodness, I cannot go out. Nobody can see me like this because I don't match that number. That's ridiculous. So I don't spend time on the scale ever. So the question might be, but Kelly, how do you know that you're healthy? How do you know that you're the right weight? Because my body lets me know. I have an ebb and flow. I fluctuate. And it's okay. Part of it is because of my thyroid. And that's an interesting thing too, is thyroids can cause also because of thyroid issues, because with a thyroid, your body is going, when it's dysregulated, whether you're hypo or hyperthyroid, especially with Hashimoto's, your weight is going to fluctuate as you're trying to stabilize. And even, I've been thriving with my thyroid condition for 4 years now. Really getting it managed and fine-tuning it and tweaking it, but I can still have lower days, and those days can trigger the dysmorphia, which can then trigger me to think that I need to be doing XYZ to fit in a box, and that's wrong. That's not how it's okay for my body to fluctuate a little bit. As long as I am paying attention to how do my joints feel? How does my brain feel? How does my gut feel? How does my skin look? How do I feel inside of my body, right? So back to triggers. Sorry, I avoid the scale. I even, sometimes I do chart my food because if I'm having a flare-up with the Hashimoto's, I need to kind of fine-tune and figure that out, but I'm still careful with that too, because I know if I chart too much with my food and my nutrition and different things for too long of a time, it starts lending me into orthorexia, which orthorexia is when we try to eat perfectly, and nobody, again, can eat perfectly, right? And orthorexia is also a side component to to dysmorphia. So knowing which are your potential weak links within dysmorphia is also super empowering and helpful. Not moralizing food. I was raised where food was good or bad, and so it moralized food, and food's not good or bad. It's not evil or saintly. Food is either high vibration or low vibration. Are there foods that, and I'm not talking about food that are chemically created, that are in a box, that are processed. That's not food. That's whatever. I'm talking about just food, all right? Your whole food, fruits, vegetables, meat, nuts, seeds, even some of those things that get created together, at the store that we get that are super quick. I'm not talking about any of the chemically stuff, all right? Even the stuff that's already all mixed together. So figure out what creates vibration, a high vibration within your body that your body thrives. Some people, my husband can smash potatoes and rice all day long and he's functioning great. I can eat a little bit of those and feel really great. But if I even go 1 spoon over, then my vibration starts lowering. And it just has to do with my body's chemistry, which can then mess with my brain monkey. You are helping. Oh, thank you, Misty. You are so very sweet. So, knowing what foods are going to, and that's one of the things I really love helping others do, is to, rather than giving a label to your diet, give the label of your lifestyle of, all right, this is how Kelly thrives, not how Joan, how Jane, how, whoever. I was empowered by my, when I had my thyroid storm many years ago, and my dear friend, who is also my nutrition coach, who's also one of my amazing team leaders now, she gave me the greatest gift in my very first coaching session with her. It's interesting because I knew a lot of this stuff about nutrition, but coaches need coaches, doctors need doctors, therapists need therapists, friends need friends, right? So what she empowered me with was, she said, Kelly, you eat super clean. She goes, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to forget about what you put in your mouth right now. She goes, just eat. And don't worry about charting. Don't worry about journaling. Don't worry about whether it does or doesn't have gluten in it. Don't worry about whether it does or doesn't have dairy in it. Just eat based off of, do you think this is going to serve me? Just eat. And it was scary and it was frightening, but it was empowering. And at that moment, I was able to, take my dysmorphia to a totally different level, because I had to, even though part of my brain was thinking, oh my goodness, my thyroid is crashing, my adrenals are crashing, I am gaining weight back, even though I was really and truly, it was crazy. That's another part of this story, but it was horrific. I thought, how can I possibly not worry about what I am eating when it could create and trigger other issues, other, inflammations, other this or that gut issues. But it helped remind me that we are body, spirit connected, because even though I was eating super, super clean, my body was still disconnected. So that meant there was emotional components that I needed to deal with. There was mental components that I needed to deal with. So I also only own clothes that I absolutely and totally love. This is another thing with dysmorphia that is so super important, is even if it means I was to only own 2 pairs of pants and 3 shirts, 1 dress, I only own what I love. And let's say I buy something tomorrow and I love it, love it, love it. And 2-3 months down the road, if I'm not loving it, if I critique myself in even the remotest, ugliest way, as I'm putting it on, if I start to kind of like, it's gone. Because that's a trigger for me. I don't want to not feel beautiful in what I am wearing. And I'm not giving us blanket permission to be, irresponsible with our finances and with going out and buying clothes, because I have some of the funnest thrift store shopping because of this as well, just to make sure that I can be mindful with it. There's some times that I can have the same wardrobe for over a year, and then there's times that my wardrobe probably changes about 3-4 months, because I want to make sure that I am only loving this body and not disrespecting it. So now we're going to talk a little bit for a short period of time about how oils can help us, all right? So real quick, remember that quality and therapeutic grade is so important to achieve the desired results that you might be wanting to achieve with dysmorphia, or with any, illness, with any disorder, with any type of physical support, right? We want to make sure that when we're approaching it in a natural way like this, that we are knowing where the source is of the oil, that it is a therapeutic grade, and that it has been rigorously tested. And I'll make sure and share lots of links below after this wonderful live with you guys. So let's take a look at lemon. All right, I'm going to talk about 10 oils because I just think they are our amazing toolbox of oils. Lemon, it's super cleansing. It can cleanse and uplift our mind to get over that stinking thinking about our body. And lavender helps calm the body and the mind to not enter into the overwhelm, or even get out, even help us get out of the overwhelm. So, when you're finding yourself not wanting to leave the house because you have that stinking thinking, you can, put some lavender over your heart to remind yourself, I am beautiful, I am wonderful, this is good, I can do this. Peppermint reminds us to truly find joy in the body that we are living in, and it gives us energy and pep to our step. Pep to our step, you like that? I didn't even plan that. Sorry. Melaleuca. It protects our spirit from even our own thoughts, releases emotional toxicity. Oregano, this is a serious deep cleansing oil. It can really cleanse that negative thought. So this is a great oil for on your low days, your super low days. Frankincense, it grounds us in the truth. This is an oil I do not go without, because it reminds me the truth that God created me. I am beautifully and wonderfully made, and I will renounce the lies of the enemy and the chitter chatter that he tries to put in my brain. Digestion, it helps us digest, not only physically for food and all that stuff, but the emotion that we can kind of get when we might be obsessing about a body part, right? Breathe. It especially is helpful when we're in public groups and settings. Putting it on the pulse points, put it on the back of the neck, on the throat even. I like to put my oils right on the crease of the elbow because this is a direct link to our heart and our lungs. And then of course doing a palm diffusing, where you put a drop or two in your hand and just palm diffusing, all right? And then whatever's left over, I like to put on the bottom of the back of my neck or the bottom of my feet, stuff like that. Then deep blue, this oil helps and reminds you to surrender your fear of loving your body. Sometimes we're afraid to love our body because we're afraid that we're gonna be like, self-obsessed. Well, with dysmorphia, since we're to the extreme of self-hate, then really and truly, there's nothing wrong with some really good boosting of reminding ourselves that it's okay to love your body, to love your skin. On Guard protects yourself from the negative internal thoughts with others and with yourself. So that is the top 10 oils that are super supportive with just getting that stinking thinking out of our mind, right? And to be able to see how beautifully, wonderfully made we are. I want us to remember something. This skin, this beautiful organ that covers our body, it protects us. It takes care of us. It it's there for us even when we're mean to it and ugly to it. And we need to start honoring it and respecting it and saying, you know what, I love you. I love you for keeping all my bones and my muscles inside of me, for keeping all my blood inside of me, for protecting me from the environment, for doing all these great things for me. So summarizing some of the science, again, real quick, some of the key things about dysmorphia, if you are only hopping on now, is remembering that the key traits of dysmorphia is that we perceive a serious defect in how we look and worry intensely about what others see, even though the parts of our appearance that we're concerned are greatly exaggerated, all right? And that dysmorphia affects 2% of the adults population in the US. Again, that's one of 50 people. It occurs both in men and women equally. They think about their real or perceived flaws for hours a day. So things that we can really do, we need to remember to have a sense of self-acceptance, to be realistic about the goals concerning our appearance, to feel comfortable in our own skin, to have an accurate depiction of how others see our body, and that our appearance is not the most important aspect of our sense of self. And some of the other disorders that can manifest or that can be related to dysmorphia is obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety disorder, orthorexia, anorexia, bulimia, social phobia, muscle dysmorphia, which affects mostly men, and depression. Muscle dysmorphia, even though it affects mostly men, think about a lot of the women. But what this is it's where we are obsessed with the size of our muscles. And the reason why it tends to affect men a lot is because men are wanting to, or we as a society have expected men to look a particular size, a different build, blah, blah. But we as women have become more and more obsessed with being in the gym as well, in having those built arms or built legs or this or that. And so it can definitely, if you already struggle with dysmorphia, or if you already are challenged with dysmorphia, because remember, struggle is a choice, is to understand that muscle dysmorphia can lend to it. So be super careful. You are talking good right now. Thank you for your obedience and oh, thank you so very much, Nicholas. You are so very sweet. So I'm going to share with you my journey on this part. I'll stop for a moment and share that, with the dysmorphia, I have struggled with, being obsessed with muscle development. I was a personal trainer for many years. And part of what's interesting is, again, like I shared earlier with triggers and stuff, is that, so when my thyroid was crashing, ironically, I had, my body, let me actually step back for a second. So my body has been multiple different variations of shapes, all right? I am at its, probably what is called my fighting weight, right? Where my body is probably the most comfortable, give or take 5-10 pounds. Don't know, like I told you, I don't get on the scale. But when I was having my thyroid crash, I was down to 97 pounds. This is how a dysmorphic thinks, all right? Even though I was not intentionally choosing to be bulimic or, I was not at all bulimic or anorexic, but my dysmorphic mind was thinking, I wonder what it'll take to get to 95. I wonder what it'll take to get to 90. Huh. Even though my body is shutting down, even though I have joint pain, I have bowel issues that were truly disgusting and scary, and don't want to be graphic, but was truly on the verge of serious disease. My face was fully bloated. If you looked at a picture of me of just my face shot, you would have thought that I was at least 20-30 pounds greater. And how do I know all of this? Is because I unfortunately overanalyze all this stuff, being with dysmorphic, right? You rewind from there even earlier of when I was probably approximately 20-30 pounds heavier than I am today. And I, again, would overanalyze my body, but I actually felt kind of comfortable in my skin. So this goes back to when I talked about how there are certain triggers, certain things that create the disconnect in our mind of, was there a trauma? Was there family relation, family genetics? Was there already a disconnect in the brain chemistry? So my trauma from my childhood was one of my triggers, like I shared earlier, right? So because of the trauma, my mind felt safer in a fuller, not as curvy body. My mind felt safer in that super straight, non-curvy body, because those two extremes of my body were safe from being victimized again. Whereas this body that has curves, this body that is looked at, my mind distorts and thinks, you're going to be abused again. You're going to get hurt again. You're this, you're that. And so this is another thing that if a person has dysmorphia, is think about why. What could be the underlying cause, the root that could be causing your brain to have that disconnect. Those are super important and super helpful to be able to get to the root, because when we get to the root cause of our disorders, our physical and our mental disorders and illnesses, when we get to the emotional root, then we can help ourselves heal. We can have that hope, right? So summing up some natural treatments is to remember to identify the coexisting disorders, to recognize early warning signs. So family and friends should be cognizant of signs of body dysmorphic disorder, which typically emerges in the early teenage years. Women, let's see, Misty says, I can relate to that. I feel safer when I was bodybuilding. I could keep more people at a distance, and I can't read the rest of it. Yeah, I totally get that, you know, and there's moments that it's interesting when I was lifting, and my, even 2-3 years ago, I was really pumping out some pull-ups, all right? I was super proud of how many pull-ups I could do. I had these huge caps of shoulders, and it was super awesome, but it was triggering my dysmorphia because I was becoming obsessed with my shoulder caps, and I was then becoming self-conscious of anybody pointing it out. And that's another thing that people need to understand with dysmorphia, is that some dysmorphics, they want lots of compliments. They need those compliments to help build themselves up. Some actually shy away from it. They're very uncomfortable. I just this summer had a dear family member who made a comment about how much healthier I look now than when I was going through my hyperthyroidism, and I was, you know, when my body was crashing and all that stuff, and super, you know, ill looking. And I took offense to it. It really bothered me because I thought, well, how could I possibly, you know, not look healthy then? I was, you know, straight and arrow, and I was this and that, and it was a reminder that they're looking at my body, and I didn't like it. I didn't like being looked at. And so it created a trigger that I had to then work through. I had to heal through. I had to do my tapping, do my oiling. Hello, Marcia. I'm so glad you got to join us. There's lots of great information earlier, or yeah, whenever you get a chance to watch the replay too. But I'm so glad to have you here. So cognitive behavioral therapy and other forms of therapy are also super helpful. But remembering that you can actually be in charge of your health and wellness with the tapping, with the oils, with intuitive eating, with intuitive working out, right? We can reduce stress and try mindful meditation, stress relief, meditation, mind-body practices that help increase our self-esteem, our self-worth, which are really important for preventing body image issues and anxiety. And sticking to a balanced, nourishing, you know, high vibration, I'm not gonna say diet, lifestyle, eating style, right? Because again, we don't wanna moralize food. So things that can make a body dysmorphic disorder person, a dysmorphic person feel worse is comparing your appearance to others, yo-yo and crash dieting or fad dieting, not having strong social support, which is kind of interesting. So if a person is already an introvert, okay, and struggling with or challenged with dysmorphia, is they can tend to want to retreat even more. Dysmorphia causes a person to want to retreat on their really bad days anyways. But having that strong social support of feeling loved, feeling supported, feeling accepted no matter what is super important. Other issues that can make dysmorphia worse is over-exercising, feeling pressure from coaches or others to be able to weigh a certain amount, bullying from peers, bullying from social media, feeling anxious over changes experienced during, especially our teens with their puberty, or college students, about to go on their first year of that freshman 15, right? Having poor social skills and coping abilities, teasing over the body and appearance in school, coming from a family with a history of obesity. That was another one of my triggers, of not only all the other triggers that I shared with you guys, the different components, but I have two very overweight parents, and did all growing up. My father recently has been losing quite a bit of weight, but my parents, have always had this up and down with weight and their relationship with food, and so that created some anxiety within me about weight, coming from coming from any trauma and stuff like that. So social media again can be a really great support, but face-on-face or group setting is so much more healthier, because this is part of the problem with social media also is I even do detoxing from social media, because I can have dear wonderful friends who are in the wellness world, who are working super hard to help encourage others to love themselves, to take care of themselves, this and that, but they'll show a body shot, or they'll do different things that, because again our society is so caught up in the aesthetics, right? And it can create a trigger within me, and I don't want to do that. So there are times that if I know my mind, my mental health isn't as great as it should, then I stay away from scrolling through and looking at anybody, so that I don't start comparing myself to them. Because one, that creates ickiness within our own spirit, and it creates a negativity in their spirit. Thank you, Marcia. You're so sweet. So if you're helping a friend or a family, keep in mind that some behaviors and comments might actually make things worse. So criticizing their diet or exercise, appearance, facial features, clothing, that can increase anxiety. So just being mindful and listening, just listening, and not focusing on anything that is of appearance. And parents, this is super, super important. I know that we want our children to be super healthy, and we want them to make good choices for themselves, right? And good is a moral word, right? So we want them to make healthy choices. We want them to have high vibration choices, whether it's food, whether it's exercise. A really great example is my daughter really could care less about exercise. It is not a high priority for her. Food, she loves food. I love her relationship with food. It is amazing, because she eats when she's hungry. She doesn't eat when she's not hungry. She doesn't beat herself up over what the choices that she makes. She knows that there's certain foods that make her feel better versus foods that don't make her feel so great. She tries to be mindful of when she eats certain things during her cycle, or when this and that and thing. Excellent relationship with food. And her relationship with exercise isn't exactly as great as I would like it to be, but she does what is best for her, and she thrives with it, and I don't give her a hard time about it. Would I like her to walk more? Would I like her to maybe lift a little bit more, do a little bit of this, that? Yes, we all want more for our children, right? But I don't ever pound on it or make it an issue, because if it does ever become something that's important to her, it'll become important for her. You know, if she's meant to just be a person who walks her whole entire life and does a few compound exercises for bone density, then that's great. You know, exercise doesn't have to be complicated. It should be enjoyable. And that's part of the problem with dysmorphia, is we can obsess about what exercise can do for our body to change it. And we want to just allow it to be enjoyable. So being mindful as parents of not encouraging fad diets, or not encouraging or emphasizing too much aesthetic stuff, right? Things that we can do that are helpful, whether it's for a loved one or as a parent, is avoiding that critical body talk and teasing, setting good examples, having open communications about tough feelings, not being afraid to have the tough conversations, encouraging healthy socialization, expressing gratitude, acknowledging accomplishments that have nothing to do with the appearance, giving family members privacy, teaching self-trust, and respecting our boundaries, all right? So this is all super important. So summing up, the key points again is that body dysmorphia is a form of body image distortion that causes anxiety over how a person appears to others. It coexists with many other disorders. It can coexist with many other disorders. The symptoms usually include frequent body checking, weighing, dieting, ritualistic behavior, cosmetic or plastic surgery, social isolation, and problems maintaining relationships. So some really great treatments, again, great ways to support a person with body dysmorphia is that to bring down the stress, all right? To go to somebody that you trust if you suspect that you have body dysmorphia, or if you suspect a loved one has body dysmorphia, and taking it to a professional, talking to a professional that you trust that will be your co-partner in your health journey, right? Because again, you are the authority of your body. You just want to be able to seek extra help and support, right? Mindfulness meditation, getting that social support, working with a nutrition or wellness coach to establish a you eating plan, not a paleo, not a vegan, not a keto, not a, whatever fad diet that is out there, but a you eating plan, one that is going to give you high vibration, because the high vibration food that we eat and we enjoy and that we take time with is what's going to help lift our mood, what's going to help lift our brain power to then get that stinking thinking out, right? Practicing EFT, doing therapeutic essential oils, doing the intuitive mindful eating, and avoiding our triggers. Those are all super, super helpful. So I promised you that I would, before I totally wrap up, I would share with you some of the resources that I do, or some of the books that I've read throughout the years that I think are really great, and I'll share with you why. So here's this one. So it's called The Slow Down Diet, Eating for Pleasure, Energy, and Weight Loss, and this is by Mark David. What's super great about this book is it is truly about stopping and enjoying your food, and enjoying what's in front of you, and being mindful about what you eat, when you eat, and how it makes you feel mentally, physically, and spiritually. And then a great companion book to your oils, to my oils, Emotions and Essential Oils. It's a great reference guide. It helps you be able to connect that physical and emotional component that might be going on. This particular one, Theology of Her Body, by Jason Everett. It's interesting because it's discovering the beauty and mystery of femininity, and then the reverse side is actually his body. It's a small little book. This is actually made for teens, but I love reading teen stuff because it simplifies it, makes it digestible, and it helps us, kind of when we're trying to learn new things. Sometimes we need that little bit simpler version. And plus, if you think about it, teens are the ones that are struggling with body image the most because they're in that transition thing. So with dysmorphia, we're continually in that transition. And so Misty says, I love that you talk about knowing how to raise our vibration. Maybe at some point you could do and I'll read the rest of it when I can see more. Yes, I would love to definitely share more about that. But again, Theology of Her Body by Jason Everett, or you could look up stuff by Christopher West. And like, this is a workshop that I went to, Our Bodies Proclaim the Gospel. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. A fun storybook that's great for any age, really. Everybody is monsterific. Being kind to everybody. This is ironically more about bullying, but if you think about it, sometimes we're bullying our own bodies when we are in a dysmorphic state, right? This book is, so this particular book is Different Bodies. What I like about this one, it is about diets for your different body types, but what's great about this particular book is it shows us that there are over 25 different types of bodies, all right? And there's probably even more. And it shows even within those 25, this doctor shows the variations even of what that body type can look like, and how we can start appreciating that not all of us are gonna have straight hips. Not all of us are going to have bigger shoulders. Not all of us are going to have tiny little thighs. I have had to learn how to really appreciate my amazing, strong thighs. And it's interesting because I can see a woman who is weightlifting and think, man, she's got powerful thighs, and not see it in my own self. Instead, I'm like thinking, how come my thighs are so big? How come they're this? How come they're that? And not appreciating the beauty in their strength. So, you know, this book is really super good about that. Then again, EFT, there's multiple great EFT Christian books. This one is EFT for Christians. This Sherry Rice has actually 4, I believe, different variations of Christian EFT books that I super love. And then they've, close to last resource that I happen to have here, I just finished this book, and it's called Fat and Faithful by J. Nicole Morgan. What do I love about this book? All right, so here I'm gonna show you a picture of the author at the back and everything. So her whole book is about teaching about fat acceptance, okay? There's some things in her book that I don't necessarily fully agree with, but what I do love about her book is it is truly about loving the body you're in, and to not judge it and to not judge others, to gather together, to fellowship together over food with no judgment. And why is this so important? Why is this important even for us, especially us with dysmorphia? Is because I can find myself, if I go, especially with what I do with coaching and all that stuff, you know, I can find myself going out to eat with somebody and feeling like I'm going to be judged, or I'm even judging myself of making certain choices of food and feeling like I'm going to be judged. And that's silly. That is truly silly, because more than likely they're not judging me. They're not even paying attention to what I'm eating. They could care less, because, you know, they're enjoying their food. And it means that I am moralizing food, and I need to not do that. So, and I could be thinking about, well, how's it going to affect me physically? So I need to think about not how the food is going to affect me aesthetically, rather, how is it going to affect me emotionally or physically, in the sense of joint pain, gut pain, brain pain, anything like that. That's more important than what does our aesthetic appearance look like. So that was a lot to digest, huh? I hope you get a chance to be able to go back, watch the replay. It'll be up for a little while. And I'm here to answer any questions. If you're open to learning more about how EFT and essential oils and or intuitive eating can support you to support your view on you, on loving yourself. I would love to be able to visit with you more. So private message me, check out my blog, my website, which is www.kellyfrickconnect.com, where there are lots of free content, lots of resources. I've done lots of journaling and lots of journeying on dysmorphia. You can go into the search column on my blog itself and just type in dysmorphia, and you'll come up with lots of blog posts on it that I've shared over the course of several years. Let's see. So also, if you know anybody who would benefit and be blessed by everything that I've shared today here, please share it, pass it on. Let's all serve each other in this mission of hope and healing in our health, and to remember that we are enough, all right? And my final request is, if you are open to learning more about how essential oils can help you on this journey, one of the great things is there's this wonderful book, a doTERRA Essentials book, that if you want to learn how to be able to get this book for free and this hope oil for free, again, message me, comment below, and we can definitely have a great conversation, because I'm here to help us all lead the most high vibration life, right? And to remind ourselves that we are more than our body and that we are enough. So with that, you guys have a fabulous rest of your Friday. God bless and take care. And I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you more on the web. All right, take care and God bless.